Good evening, gamers, and welcome to yet another fun-filled episode of Games with Dave. Tonight, I am joined by the man behind Madness Heart Press, the Kaiju poet himself, John Baltisberger. John is an award-winning author, game designer, and all-around awesome dude, which you can tell by the shirt that he's wearing and the iteration of my channel name that he's got working under his name. So be sure to check out all of his works in the links in the description below. And welcome to the show, John. I think we've tried this like 2 or 3 times, and I had to cancel 2 previous times. So I'm glad we're finally getting to sit down to talk.
It's been a wild couple of years for sure. I'm super happy to be here, though. It's a long time coming. I'm been looking forward to this for ever since we actually nailed down a date.
Yeah, so have I, because I've seen your work from afar. I've picked up a couple of books, as I was telling you, that I still haven't had the chance to read, that I'm greatly looking forward to reading. But yeah, it seems like this took us forever to actually get this to work. And as soon as we got it set up, and it's like, even the day was counting down through the hours, I'm just like, please, nothing happened. So I was supposed to interview Doug Shute last night. And we've had monsoon season ripping through Maine, basically, and our cable went out. So I had no internet, and I had to message him, and I'm like, oh, my God. So I'm glad it didn't happen to us tonight, because I would have felt horrible.
Yeah, that would have been sad.
It would have been very sad. So I guess to start out, you're known for your Morkborg work and your writing and everything else. How did Madness Heart Press come to be, really?
Okay, yeah. So,
I always start with the hard-hitting questions.
Back in, I guess 2014, 2015, I was starting to dip my toes into writing. And I had kind of I had tried to create a brand that was deep in the heart of madness, deep in the heart of Texas, deep in the heart of madness. And
nice.
I was writing these stories and getting published here and there in little anthologies. In 2016, I got laid off. And I spent 3 years just essentially driving Lyft while doing job searches. And it sucked. It was horrifying. And eventually I stopped job searching. I told my wife, I was like, look, I'm just going to try writing for a while. And I was writing, I was getting published with fair regularity. I didn't get a lot of rejection letters early in my career, which is sort of like the a switch of how it usually happens. So now I get rejection letters all the time. But early in my career, anything I sent off, I was like, okay, this will probably get published. It was a really good feeling. So one day, I'm in the restroom and I pick up a book my wife bought at a used bookstore. It was the Creepypasta Anthology, short story anthology. And the cover sucked, and the binding sucked, and the editing sucked, and the layout sucked. And I read a couple of the stories, and they sucked. And I came out of the bathroom, and I was like, I bet we could do better. I bet we could be a better publisher than whoever put this book out. Let's do it. And my wife looked at me, and she's like, so you don't have a job right now. I am a teacher with a teacher's salary, and your solution is start a company. It's like, yeah. And so I went to my old writing website, which deep in the heart of madness, when I was looking up domains, I landed on madnessheart.press. And so I was like, actually, we already kind of have a publishing name just in our URL. So we did that. I threw out a open call for submissions for an anthology called Creeping Corruption. And then another one called trigger warning body horror, and I started publishing stuff here and there, developing relationships. And then I went to a convention here in Austin called KillerCon with my anthology, Trigger Warning Body Horror. And there I met a lot of the people that have helped me build my career as both a writer and a publisher. It's been really amazing. But that is kind of the birth of Madness Heart Press. It was me seeing a shitty anthology and saying, you know what? I can do this. I can do if they can do this and get away with it, I can do this.
It's funny because that's basically, I was telling you about my previous employment before we got started here, and I'll avoid that whole story now. But that's how I got started doing the 3D stuff. Is I was looking to get some stuff, and I'm like, man, these guys charge way too much for what at times cost pennies on the dollar to make.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I think we can do way cooler stuff at a way better price. And yeah, I like how that kind of the symbiotic, not symbiotic, that's a bad word. I don't know the word I'm looking for. The parallels in our our past few years.
The synergy, if you will.
The synergy. Thank you. That was the word. I knew it was an S word. So have you always, judging by your shirt, your writing, and everything, I'm guessing you've been a horror fan for a very long time.
It's funny. I didn't think I was until I was talking to an aunt I hadn't seen in years recently, and she mentioned that when I was like 5 or 6, I told her my dream was opening a horror-themed Disney World-esque theme park.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So, yeah, I guess so. But when I first started writing, I was intending to write like science fiction, fantasy, and urban fantasy. And every time I would send a story to one of my beta readers, one of my friends, they'd be like, hey, this is messed up and scary. It's like, I guess I'm a horror writer then. Oops.
That's funny. So do you have any like horror movies that have really influenced your writing or?
Yeah. Clive Barker, Hellraiser especially, but like Clive Barker, David Cronenberg, John Carpenter. I love body horror, and those three are kind of the kings, in my opinion.
They are
of body horror. I've become a big fan of Jordan Peele with his last few theatrical releases, but I would absolutely say that Clive Barker and Cronenberg are like in the top tier of my DNA as a horror fan and writer.
That's some great DNA to have, let me tell you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even like you were saying, Carpenter with The Thing. God, those practical effects in that movie are just
I love them so much.
Yeah. Oh, I could sit and watch that movie for hours over and over and over and never get tired of it.
I'm a big fan of Godzilla, right? My moniker Kaiju Poet comes from my absolute obsession with Godzilla. I have a Godzilla versus Biollante sleeve in the works.
Nice.
And like the first place you want to go if you want to not be a fan of something is the fandom, right? The Godzilla fandom is full of people just like angry at the Godzilla I think that they didn't grow up with. It's like, fuck the practical effects. I like the immensity and action of the MonsterVerse Godzilla. I like this. I don't, or I hate all the CGI. I only want a guy in a rubber suit. And for me personally, every Godzilla is beautiful. I enjoy every single one of those. Now my favorite Godzilla movies are Gojira, Godzilla 1984, Shin Godzilla, Godzilla -1.
-1 was so good.
It's so good. But the movies that's just Godzilla, and Godzilla is a stand-in for some kind of horrifying thing. But that doesn't mean I don't love the 40 Godzilla versus movies, because I do. I love them with all my heart. And so I say all of that to say, which, by the way, that's my catchphrase. If you're watching out there, take a shot every time I say that to say, and you will die of alcohol poisoning before the end of the show. I promise you. I say all this to say, that's two. One of my big pieces of advice for any creator or anyone who wants to create stuff is be an unapologetic fan. Love the things you love. Don't I love Morkborg. I love all the crazy stuff that comes out of it. And some of it's really dumb, and I love that stuff. And some of it's frighteningly intelligent, and I love that stuff too, right?
Yep.
I think unabashedly enjoying things is the first step in making cool shit.
I would concur, absolutely, because if you're not a fan of what you're creating, then really, what's the frickin' point? It's I feel it's for me, the game I want to make is a Halloween homage, because the Halloween 1 and 2, and then 2018 are 3 of my favorite horror movies. And it's just, I love them, so I want to pay tribute to them. And
Halloween 2018, was that one of the Rob Zombie ones?
No, not Rob. No, I did not. I was not a fan of those. I don't know about you.
I'm not. I don't. Halloween isn't my main franchise as far as horror films go, so I don't have the stakes in it some people do.
Yep.
But I have a friend who absolutely loves the Rob Zombie Halloween movies. And what he mentioned to me is that, what I've noticed? Most people are either a fan of Rob Zombie's music or of his movies, but never both.
Wow, I've never thought of that. That is absolutely true, because I love his music.
Right?
But House of a Thousand Corpses and stuff like that, I'm just eh. And there are some people that just love them, and I'm just I don't know about you, but I love their music.
I'm a big Rob Zombie fan, music fan myself. So I guess that tells you how I feel about the movies. I don't have a visceral hatred of Rob Zombie's films that some people do, but I try not to have a visceral hatred of anything that isn't healthy. Actively harmful.
Yeah, it's just not healthy. It's years ago, I had someone to me, I don't even remember what it was. I'm like, I hate this. And my friend was like, dude, you shouldn't hate anything. And he basically said what you did, unless it was something that's harming you or someone else, you shouldn't hate anything. And I've tried to work that word out of my vocabulary, unless it's this is kind of a good segue into another thing I wanted to talk about of yours is I hate Nazis, and you've got the game, which is Kill the Nazi.
Yeah, I did make Kill the Nazi. That's true. I am thinking about bringing a class action lawsuit against DC Comics for GI Robot, because I think I might be GI Robot. My favorite things are friendship and killing Nazis.
Man, that's fantastic.
I hadn't seen Monster Squad yet, and I had 7 different people message me and be like, "Hey, I think you might just be GI Robot, dude." I was like, "Okay, I guess I have to watch this now."
That is so funny.
Yeah, so I am a queer Jew living in Austin, Texas. There's a lot of bigots around, and the rise of Christian nationalism in America has been really frustrating. And then and without getting into the politics of the situation, the situation with Israel and Palestine has allowed for some really frustrating anti-Semitism to also exist under the guise of activism.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely not. You will never hear me defending Israel's actions. But there's absolutely a like, I wrote this Jewish war story, and someone be like, well, okay, well, what's your position on Israel then? I was like, I'm a queer Jew in Texas. I have no what do you think I have to do with the socio-political policies of a foreign country?
Right.
And so it's frustrating. I wrote a book called The Crimes and Passions of John Stabberger, which is about a superhero that is a kind of amalgamation of the Punisher and Wolverine.
Oh, nice.
He's a Orthodox Jewish man who can pull knives, who can absorb knives and then pull them out of his body. And he uses this power solely to kill Nazis. And
that sounds really awesome.
It was so much fun. I try to write mostly smart stuff. John Stabberger is stupid, but it's stupid fun. But yeah, I am at heart an anarchist. I believe in the dissolution of authority, and that authoritarianism over anyone is kind of despicable.
Yep.
Fascism is one of the most bald-faced attempts at totalitarianism.
Yep.
Although, I don't have any patience for totalitarianistic communism. I don't have any. I just like, if people are being controlled and people are being oppressed, I'm against it entirely.
Absolutely.
Full stop. Yep. As a Jew, fascism and Nazism are kind of something that I feel very comfortable addressing from a Jewish point of view. And so I do a lot. It's funny you mentioned Kill the Nazis specifically. I designed that game shortly after the inauguration, after a certain politician did a certain hand gesture. And the original cover I made for it was a man, the cover is a man with a bullet going through his head in a suit. The original one had a super long red tie. But I decided that maybe that was
too on point,
a little too on the nose.
So that and Gremlining are both micro RPGs. What exactly is a micro RPG? Like, if I understood it right, it was like a business card RPG. But
so here is the Gremlining in print.
That is so cool.
It's so I wrote the Gremlining for a game jam that was 36 words or 32 words. I don't remember which. But you could only have the mechanics had to fit in 32 words. And then you could have like a little text for like a description of the game. But all the mechanics and all the rules had to be 32 words. And so I did that, and I was like, actually, I can fit that all on the back of a business card. And then I can do a description of the game on the front, and then I can put my my link tree link on the bottom of the card. Hey, I have a business card that's also a fully playable RPG.
That's pretty friggin' sick.
So it was really cool to do. And it uses the actually the Gremlining uses the system I built for Odd Gops.
And that was the badass system, right?
No. Odd Gobs is a different system than the badass
Odd Gobs.
system.
That was Overgrowth that you did.
Yeah, Overgrowth.
Okay.
And so after I did Odd Gobs in 32 words, I was like, man, I wonder if I could do my badass system, which is like my flagship system for Madness Heart games.
Yep.
I was like, what can I do? Can I make a micro version of the badass system that can fit on a business card? And so I made Kill the Nazi using that. And then I did a third one, which is Overgrowth. I made a micro version of Overgrowth. And the link on that card is the link to the Drive-Thru RPG, so you can buy the full version of the game. I really wanted to make something that was... Thank you, honey. For those wondering, my daughter just handed me a sticker I have. It is a certain tech, the decapitated head of a certain tech mogul.
That's fantastic.
My piercing parlor was giving those out.
That is pretty rad. God, so I could talk about that for hours, but we'll keep going on on this for now.
So micro RPG, I don't know if there's an exact definition. There's minimalist RPGs. Micro RPGs are really trying to boil a game down to the barest minimum mechanics you need to play something, and then a sentence or two to set the stage, right? I am a big fan of minimalist rules, heavy storytelling. Yeah. It doesn't work for everything. And I'm also a big fan of like OSE and OSR.
Yep.
But when I'm designing, my core philosophy is, how do we get to the fun as quickly as possible? How do we ramp up what we're actually looking for in this game as quickly as possible? One thing that I'm sure pisses off a lot of people that submit their books to me for publishing, I get bored really quickly.
You and me both.
So you're going to see, when you open one of my books, you'll see, I tend to hit the action by page 3, if not page 1. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You will see what I mean. And I try not to slow down until I write the end. It does mean that most of my books are shorter, but I really feel that it, like, reading a book or playing a game should feel a little bit like Speed, the movie, not the drug.
Yeah.
Where once you get on, it has to keep going until the explosive end.
Right. No, I think that's fantastic because, it's like, I think I will love your books. Like, I think Stephen King is an immensely talented author, but I feel like it takes him forever to get to the action of his stories. And then it's like, it's such a bell curve throughout his stories.
Stephen King is an immensely talented
roller
author.
Coaster and go,
Yeah. Stephen King is an immensely talented author who got his start being paid by the word.
Yeah, right.
If he is offended, if you or he are offended by that, he can absolutely take his tears all the way to the bank where he deposits his next $1 million. While I scrape by like $15 royalty checks each month.
So you have a new book coming out very soon that has me extremely intrigued. I think it comes out in just a couple days, right?
Yeah. I have a book coming out this weekend, Dybbuk in the Doorway.
And I saw a quote that Mike Rankin had made saying that what Dybbuk in the Doorway was going to do for Judaism, what The Exorcist did for Catholicism.
Yeah.
That, one, is very high praise. And two, how did you feel when you got that? There's a phrase for what?
Blurb.
Yeah, it's like a oh, I can't think of the phrase, but yeah, the blurb. How did that make you feel? That must have been like,
Mike
oh, excellent.
is Mike actually has several of my books framed on his wall.
Nice.
He's and it's not just me. He collects framed items from authors. But he's a great friend of mine, a real mensch in the Splatterpunk extreme horror community. And he always gives me bangers of blurbs. He was one of the first people who my book War of Dictates, he compared to like if Clive Barker and the Marquis of de Sade got together to write poetry.
Wow.
So but that specific quote was really meaningful because Dybbuk in the Doorway is in a lot of ways very different than anything I'd ever written before. It came from a different place. It had a different intention, and it's a different kind of horror than I normally write, than I have normally written. I'll say that. I think it is absolutely my most literary horror yet. And I think it's going to leave a lot of people pretty fucked up.
That's awesome. I've definitely got to pick it up because anything that I can like read, and then when I turn out the light when I go to bed and I have to turn it right back on and be like, what the fuck did I just see in my doorway?
Yeah.
And especially in this case, it's really fitting of like, what the hell was that in my doorway? Turn the light back on and then be like, oh, there's nothing there. Turn it out the light again. Oh shit. Turn it back on.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how this one is how this book kind of hits the various horror communities because it is so different. I think it like I'm absolutely known for my body horror and my ultra violence. And this book is devastating in a completely different way. I wrote 3 books while going through chemo and the first year of after chemo care for my cancer. The first one was that I wrote actually during chemo was called Abhorrent Accords. It was the 3rd book in a trilogy about a kaiju event. And it was like really bleak and really violent and gross because all the abhorrent books are super gross. And then I wrote a book called that's a collection called All I Want Is to Take Shrooms and Listen to the Color of Nazi Screams. Which is
I love that title.
Thank you. Which is a slightly fictionalized account of me growing up here in Austin. I am fond of saying the fictionalized parts are anything you would call the cops about. And that book won an award last year at the Wonderlands. It won the Wonderland Award for Best Collection.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And then I wrote Dybbuk in the Doorway. And it is primarily about the harm that insular communities do to each other and to themselves through their inflexibility and in a big part, I think it's also about wrestling with mortality, about facing death, both for yourself and for those around you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. I cannot wait to read it. The cover is absolutely amazing. I wish I had.
So good.
I wish I had been smart enough to download a picture of it so I could pop it on the screen. But for me, it's all hindsight is always 2020 with me. It's um yeah, I've got a lot of catching up to do with your novellas, your games, and even comics that you've worked on, which, dude, you're kind of like the modern day Renaissance man in my book because you do a little bit of everything. And I have a really hard time finding the time to consume them. What blows my mind is how you have enough hours in the day to create all the stuff that you do. It's like,
Yeah, I don't sleep. I've always had insomnia, but one of the side effects of chemo is I no longer get sleepy.
oh wow,
Um,
that
at
sucks.
all. Like, yeah,
Wow.
no, it's awful. Like, if I don't, I have 2 pills that help me sleep, and then I have a medical cannabis license. And those 3 things together will finally get me sleepy enough to fall asleep. But if I don't take those, I will kind of maintain a level of alertness and awakeness, but I'll start getting the exhaustion cramps,
Yep.
and I'll get the lack of sleep, like paranoia and anxiety, but without actually feeling sleepy.
Right. Yeah. Well, see, I kind of get the same thing. I have to take a bunch of shit to make me sleep, and my lungs can't take the other stuff anymore. So
Hmm.
mine is, but I'm kind of the same way. And it's just from life of the shit that I've seen and gone through that,
Hmm.
like, I think a flea could sneeze in my bedroom and I'll fucking wake up and I'm like, what was that? And then I'm awake for 20 minutes and then I might nod
Hmm.
back off again until I like,
You got that hyper vigilance from PTSD going for you, I hear.
yeah, yep.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Super
it's
fun.
fantastic.
Yeah,
um,
you get it.
yeah, so I can definitely feel your pain on that one. And
Yeah.
it doesn't help. Here we are. It's 9:32 Eastern time, and I'm sitting here drinking this because I plan on staying up for a while after we get done here tonight, whenever that may be, and working on my website. And it's like that's always a rabbit hole and a half going
Yeah.
down that kind of avenue at night. And I'm sure the same applies to writing for you. Is
Mhm.
you'll get started and you're like, shit, it's 2 a.m. I should
Mhm.
probably try to get some sleep.
Yeah, I have in my other window, I have the Dying in the Dying Lands manuscript that I'm working on because I'm an idiot. And I'm working on it because I'm an idiot, not it exists because I'm an idiot is probably what I should say. Uh but that's like after I finish talking to you, I'm gonna like stare at that for a while before I open up Oblivion Remastered instead of writing. Probably, if I'm being honest.
Nice. I wish I had the hand-eye coordination for games like that, but it's like I'm the kid that like gets frustrated with video games because I'm always like a half second behind what I need to be. And it's like I would play oh shit, what is the Star Wars game? Battlefront. I
Oh
would
yeah,
play
yeah,
that
yeah.
online with my friends. They'd have like 20 kills, and here I am with like 2 running around just missing everything and dying every 2 seconds. Um, so we kind of touched on overgrowth, and it's really piqued my interest looking at it. I mean, it's environmental wizards versus basically corporate assholes, if I understood
Yeah.
that correctly. And it does utilize the badass system.
Hmm.
So what can you tell me about your system and like how it came to be and how it's grown since you created it?
Sure. So years ago, when I first discovered um, itch.io, right?
Yep.
I was looking for their little like one-page games, micro games, free games, and there was a game called Awesome Sauce. Um, and it's over the top. It's a little ridiculous, but the gist of it is kind of what I use to plant the seeds of what would eventually be the badass system. Uh, just want to give props. Awesome sauce. If you've seen Badass and you thought, hey, yeah, I did chomp your style, and thank you. So the Badass system, boy, howdy, do I wish I had chosen a cooler name than that, because I always feel like a tool when I tell people it's a Badass game.
Dude, that's badass. I'm sorry, but
badass.
Yeah.
So the Badass system was basically built out of a conversation I had with the gentleman named Brent Critchfield, who designed Gruff, the Battle Goats card game, where he really wanted a RPG that could be played in a one shot, where you actually leveled like all the way up in that one sitting. What Badass is it's a 2-stat system where you have a static stat and you have Badass. Your Badass stat is what you use to do everything, right? Imagine it's your base stat. It's also your health. Whenever you try to do anything, you roll a pool of dice equal. Yeah, I also love minimal stats.
Yeah, minimal stats are great.
Fewer the better. There's like a sweet spot, right? Like I saw a thing a while back where it's like 1 stat. Okay, 2 stats. Perfect.
Yeah.
3 stats, we're still in a good spot. Once you get to 4, it's like you might as well have 20.
Yeah. Yep.
I think 2 to 4 stats is like my perfect place for any game. So in Badass, your Badass score is your do anything stat. And you roll a pool of D6s where 4 up is success, 3 under is a failure, and you have to roll a number of successes equal to a pain point, which is also, target number, difficulty rating.
Yeah,
whatever you want to call it. We call it pain point because we're trying to be edgy and metal. The GM is called a tyrant for the same reason. And then your other stat is more about flavor. So in Splatter League, your static stat is your superpowers. In Overgrowth, you have 4 static stats, and they are how you deliver your magic. And basically when you want to use magic, you add your static stat to your Badass score and you roll. When you fail a roll, your Badass stat goes down. You lose health, essentially, and you get less good at whatever you're trying to do. What makes the Badass system badass, where it gets its name from, is the way you gain Badass score is by doing things that make your GM say, hell yeah.
That's awesome.
You have to be badass. It's meant to do 2 things. It's meant to both encourage off the wall, over the top thinking. It's meant to encourage players to be kind of crazy, to make them. There's nothing worse than sitting around a table where each person is like noodling on their phone. All right, John, it's your turn. Okay, I roll my sword. I swing my sword, roll the dice. Okay, I hit this much damage. You can do that in Overgrowth or Splatter League. You can say, I'm going to punch the guy. You'll never level up, and you'll have diminishing returns. On the other hand, if you want to say, okay, I'm going to use a grappling hook to catch the back of that motorcycle, and then as he pulls me along, I'm going to donkey kick my way down onto that goblin and skateboard his corpse across into the other goblins like a bowling ball into pins.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome.
So
that's badass.
You've got me already with a hell yeah.
Guess what? You get to raise your badass score a point and then roll. And is it balanced? No. Overgrowth and Splatter League
balance. Balance is
they're not.
in certain things is just not always necessarily fun.
They're not games like most. I want to say that it's a purposeful design thing. Like my games are not balanced because their focus is on getting to storytelling and building that memorable actions that make you say, "Good God, tell my friends about how this crazy shit went down." Whenever I'm talking about Odd Gods, for instance, there was a point where I ran the game for my daughter and my wife, and twice in one night, my daughter summoned a 50-foot tall holographic Britney Spears.
Dude, that's
it's not
badass.
Balanced.
No, but that's badass.
It's not balanced, but I tell everyone that story. You know what I mean? So it's the badass system is all about empowering players to kind of be as over the top as they actually want to be, without punishing it. There's lots of games where if you are being over the top, the GM's going to kind of slap your hands. Mm-hmm. And they should. Like if you're playing a realistic game, if you're playing Call of Cthulhu and you're like, I'm going to charge the cops. Well, they're going to get shot by the cops. I'm sorry. Call of Cthulhu is not the over the top game.
Right.
So, I think it's important for from a design perspective to create things that are what you want to play, but also where you kind of see holes in the design community. I've seen a lot of games that kind of embrace gonzo storytelling. Grok is a great example, for instance. And Troika do a lot of gonzo stuff. But it didn't really embrace the Saints Row 4 mentality that I really wanted it to embrace.
Just sheer chaos.
Sheer chaos, and allowing players to really embrace the power fantasy in any way they really wanted to.
Yeah, I love the sound of this. Do you now, do you allow third-party usage of the badass system yet?
I actually made an SRD for Splatter League. That's available online. I want to do a Adam Vass of World Champ Games. One of my favorite designers of all time. I love Adam Vass. He did Necronautilus, Soul Burner. He did Bloodborg. And he was also the guy who published Fiskborg and did the art for Fiskborg. I think he's amazing. But he a while back for Cyber Metal 2012, he released a zine that was like, here's how you can create stuff for Cyber Metal. I'm thinking pretty strongly about doing a badass zine of like, here's how you make a game for badass. Here are all the rules you need. Please use this logo that you can download here and spread the news. Because honestly, the open license has changed the face of indie development, indie RPGs for sure. But it's rapidly overtaken mainstream gaming as well. D&D and that other one, a Pathfinder.
Yep.
They're becoming less and less monolithic. And it's because of games like Morkborg and Troika and Mothership putting out these open licenses, open third-party licenses. I think it is the lifeblood of the community now, and I think anyone that's creating a game that isn't allowing for third-party license is shooting themselves in the foot. So I
Absolutely.
need to do more work to allow people to make it easier for people to play with a badass system and in these spaces. But 100%, I want people to. Once I can get that zine out, it'll be free on itch, and I'll probably sell copies off the website for like essentially what it costs to print, because I really want to encourage and allow people to do that.
Well, all I will say is I love goblins. I love chaos. And I really like the sound of using the badass system for it, because I can just like, I've got a vision in my head already of like just insanity with goblins.
Absolutely, vision in your head, a dream in your hand.
Yeah.
It's all that's all you need. That's all you need.
So you write, I kind of messed it up in the title. I did fix it. Of you write a lot of splatterpunk novellas and that have turned into games or have elements of gaming in them. Which inspires more for the other for you? Do the novellas inspire the game more, or the other way around?
So I grew up reading Ravenloft and various D&D, essentially D&D lit, right?
Yep.
Obviously Dragonlance was a huge influence on me as a kid. The number of times I yelled Fizzban and high-fived one of my best friends, countless. And so when I first started reading Morkborg, and I was like, man, third-party license, I wonder if this would apply for writing like fiction. So I messaged Johan and Pele, and I was like, can I do this? And they said, absolutely. That's what it's out of our hands. There's a third-party license. You do what the fuck you want. So I feel extremely blessed that creators allow me to make novelizations of their games. And I feel really like the community has embraced it and accepted it and likes what I'm doing. So I'm just like, it's kind of this extreme level of honored that I'm sort of feeling about the whole thing. That said, in general, I like to novelize games rather than create games from novels. Like Splatter League was first Godless League, which was a gamified version of Statburger.
Okay.
And it's fine. It's good. I enjoy it. It's badass. It's a badass game, right? But as far as games go, Overgrowth is better. And that is just a game. I haven't novelized that. I don't know. I think I would spend my energy making like expansions for it rather than writing a novel about it.
Gotcha.
On the other hand, I've written novels for Vastgrim, Morkborg. I've written a Mothership story. I really like writing. I really like writing fiction based on games and adventures. I think that is more fun than making games out of books. That said, I've recently been contracted to make a game out of a comic book graphic novel.
Saw that. That was going to be my next thing I was going to bring up, which is kind of rad.
Yeah, so
that's badass. We're gonna utilize badass a lot through this conversation.
Yeah, for sure. I try to live my life in a badass way. You see, the graphic novel is called Spellslinger. It was written by a friend of mine named Zach Chapman, who is a great comic book creator. He did Spellslinger, he did House of Blood, and he did Kaiju Blues. And we've talked a few times about making games based on his comics, but at the last event we were both at, Staple Independent Media Expo, people kept coming up to his table and be like, "Man, this would be a really cool role playing game. If this was a role playing game, I'd buy it." And so after the con, he walked up to me and was like, "Hey, what if you made this a game? Then we could bundle it together with my next Kickstarter." I was like, "Yeah, man," because he has all the art. He has all the art. He does lettering. He does layout. All I have to do is write the thing. So I'm considering either using the Powered by the Apocalypse system for it or Morkborg. I feel like Powered by the Apocalypse would be more... it's hard because I think Powered by the Apocalypse is very user-friendly once you understand what it is. However, putting compatible with Morkborg will absolutely give it a larger install base.
Yes.
And I obviously understand the rules of Morkborg very well, right? So that feels like a very gentle lift for me. So yeah, those are kind of what we're thinking. We're throwing it around. I had at one point suggested the Badass system for another of his books. Specifically Kaiju Blues, which is about kaiju and like Ultraman-esque heroes.
Nice.
So I think like that you can ramp up the
Badass
chaos.
seems to fit with that, you know. It's
yeah, exactly. But Spellslinger is more like Old West or Weird West, right? Where you don't necessarily want things over the top. You want them kind of gritty and messy.
Yeah, you want the blood and the spurs and all that.
And there's already an Old West Morkborg game. So there's there's lots of mechanics I can kind of pull from and use as a template for building something new for Spellslinger.
Why am I losing the name of that game? It's Carl Druids.
I know. Hold, please.
I've got it way back here. I can't go.
There we go.
Is it Frontier Scum?
Yes. Frontier Scum.
Yep. Oh, you've got both. I've got both editions of that as well, with the blood edition, and yeah.
So I wanted the blood red edition when I backed the vinyl, and it came with both. So I gave the other one to a friend of mine who didn't have it yet. I was like, I'll just keep the blood red for myself.
That vinyl
beautiful book
kicks ass.
It does. That's how I got into Morkborg. Actually, was Regnant Putrescence, which you can see is framed above my door.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. I never got my hands on that, but I've got the Frontier Scum album like right up here.
Yeah, I saw the Morkborg album on Exalted Funeral. And I was like, man, I don't collect vinyl. I've never played Morkborg, but this is cool. Like, this format is very cool. I want to support this format. I want people to keep doing stuff like this, so I'll buy it. And then I started collecting vinyl, and my wife is very angry at me. But I actually have 2 copies of the Morkborg album. One's that I could frame, and one is
to listen.
Yeah. But also up there, I have the framed copy of Bog Wizard's Journey Through the Dying Lands album. Because they wrote that album based on an anthology I published with one of the songs being specifically about Whispers of the Dead Saint, my Morkborg novel.
Yep.
It has a voiceover from me on the track.
Dude, that is sick.
And I did all the layout, so they sent me a signed copy of the album. And I was like, well, I have to frame this immediately.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is,
once again, badass.
It's super badass. my badass score was just rising exponentially.
Yeah, we are leveling you up like hardcore here.
I did fail my don't have cancer check a few years back, so it knocked my badass score way down.
Oh,
But
but now, are you in full remission now,
I'm in
or?
full remission. I have another like 4 or 5 months of like super close observation. My particular cancer is extremely prone to reoccur within the first 2 years.
Yep.
After that, it's 3 years of like keeping an eye on things, and then I'm considered, well, you're never cured, right? But I'm considered
Recovered, I
like,
guess, would be
yeah, not,
maybe the
I'm
way.
extremely low risk.
Well, my
So
fingers are crossed for you, my friend,
thank you.
because
No, I look, over the last 2 weeks, I've been to like 6 doctor appointments. So I
ugh,
got all of my checks, all my blood tests, my MRIs, all that stuff, and everything is clear. Everything is looking good right now. Except for my triglycerides. But
you and me
other than that,
both,
it's
man.
fine.
You and me both. Like, my weird little thing is I've had 2 heart attacks over the last 6 months. I
Oh
didn't know I
Jesus.
had either one. That's like the weirdest thing. I went in for my
Oh,
physical back the beginning of April, and my doctor, he saw some swelling in my ankles. He goes, "I don't like the looks of that. I want to run an EKG on you." And we did. And he comes in and back in because he thought it was maybe a vein disorder that was causing it at first. And he looks at me, he goes, "How does it feel to be the most badass man in the world?" And I go, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Dude, you've had at least 2 heart attacks over the last 6 months." And I go, "When?" And he goes, "You didn't feel them?" I go, "No." I go, "I may have had them in my sleep or something." He goes, "You should have felt these ones even if you were sleeping." And I'm like, "No." And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, like, "You're a badass. Here we go again." And I was like,
hell yeah.
but it's been, I've had to like go on a statin for it and everything and
Yeah,
all
yeah.
that to bring everything down. And I've got to lose like 150 pounds, but
Jeez.
it's
I'll tell you,
crazy.
man. Years ago, my grandfather, may his memory be for a blessing, was laying in bed with my granny, and he wakes up and he's like, "Oh, I'm having a heart attack." And he lays there. And right around maybe 6 a.m., after laying there for like 8 hours straight, having a heart attack, he's like, "Okay, I'm going to go ahead and wake her up a little bit early."
Oh,
He's, "Mike,
jeez.
if you don't mind, I think I'm having a heart attack. Will you drive me to the hospital?" Granny goes, "Oh my God." So she gets up, she goes and takes a shower, and she puts on her makeup, and drives him to the hospital.
That is crazy.
So yeah,
Wow.
I feel that you are a kindred spirit to my grandfather, who was like, "Okay, having a heart attack, waking up my wife early. I'll take my chances with the heart attack."
Which one's gonna cause more problems for me
Right.
here?
Which one's more likely to kill me?
Oh man, I'll tell you, my fiance now won't let me lift anything. It's like I'll go to pick up the trash and she's like, "No, let me take that." I'm like, "Come on." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I get it." And it's, yeah, well, hopefully both of our health stays on the upward trajectory.
Stable
And
and yeah, getting healthier.
now, have
That's
you
the
gotten to
goal.
ring the bell yet, or will that come?
You know what? I didn't. I finished my chemo and I didn't ring the bell. I
I
didn't
would
even know about
go
ringing
in
the
there and
bell.
just like rap
Yeah, I'm
on
gonna
that
go
thing.
kick open the door and ring it. No, it was really crazy. Um, so there are 5 different kinds of testicular cancer. I had 4 of them,
Wow.
uh, including including a teratoma. Now, do you know what a teratoma is?
I do not.
A teratoma is the kind of tumor that causes cells from other parts of the body to gravitate to it and then grow. Sometimes teratoma can have like teeth and hair. My teratoma did not have teeth and hair. My teratoma did have a primitive neural network and spine, vestigial limbs, skin, and lungs.
Wow. Like being
Heck,
you and
I
hearing
had to
that,
leave
I would be,
Texas to get it removed because it was technically an abortion.
wow.
That's a joke. I want to point out that's a
okay.
joke.
All right. Oh, good. I'm glad it was a joke because
Yeah, no, but it was like there was a
that's
dude.
crazy, though. Like it's like a
There
little
was a
person
dude.
living there. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't pay. If he had paid rent, maybe I would have let him stay.
Well, I'm glad you're
But
able to have a sense of humor about something
yeah.
that had to be absolutely
Oh, it
friggin'
was
horrible.
so okay. So I had 4. One of them was super aggressive, and so they performed what's called a radical orchiectomy, which is not radical. There were no skateboards involved. I hated it.
And hopefully no orcs.
Huh?
And hopefully no orcs. You said an orchiectomy.
Yeah, I'm on the fence about that one. Paint my wife green and call her my orc muscle mommy. She won't let me paint her green. I tried. So but basically, like once they did the biopsy and all that, they're like, hey, you need to get in chemo like yesterday. And I did 2 weeks of 8 hours a day, every day of the week, and then like 1 visit for 2 weeks, and then that was it. So they basically firebombed me, right? They did extreme hardcore chemo. I think it was 4 drugs each day, or 3 drugs each day, and then a 4th drug on like the Friday. But I'll tell you, speaking of sense of humor, this whole thing was really harrowing. But I went into the urologist finally after we did the ultrasound. And I'm sitting there waiting. He comes in. He's like, all right, I'm Dr. Nick. So this looks bad. We need to do, it's called a radical orchiectomy. It's like, okay, what's that? Well, we have to remove it. Remove what, friend?
Yeah.
Oh, we have to remove the testicle. Mm-hmm. And then I immediately launched into, well, what about prosthetics? Can I get a smart prosthetic? Like one with Bluetooth? Can I get it? Can I get it? Can I get it so it plays, like it has Spotify on it?
Yeah.
Because like, imagine undressing for the missus, Barry White's coming from my junk.
You're my first, my last, my everything.
It'd be perfect.
It would be.
My urologist did not know what to do. And it's like, buddy, I cannot be the first person who's processing his terror through humor. I can't be.
Yeah, like I think I'm the same way. I've got a pretty dark sense of humor myself, and it's like I think I would kind of react the same way and then be like, so how do we kick the shit out of this,
Yeah.
And
It was weird, like, because every step, so testicular cancer is actually super common. Far more people than you are aware of are walking around with one testicle. Most people are not like super open about it as I am. Like they have a lot of ego wrapped into the number of testes they have, I guess.
weird, but
yeah, it's a
okay.
weird thing to have ego about, right? But the entire time that all the doctors like, don't worry about it. This is super common. It's super treatable. I was like, cool, it's super treatable. How do we treat it? Well, we're going to rip it out. And then like, okay, we got it out. It's going to be fine. Okay, actually, it's not necessarily fine. You have like super cancer. It's like, okay, cool. What now? Okay, we're going to give you these chemo drugs, but it's going to be fine. Turns out I'm allergic to one of those chemo drugs.
That's shitty to find out because you're probably going through the process and finding out like.
What makes it even shittier, Dave, is when I told my oncologist, hey, I'm allergic to this drug, his response was, yeah, that sucks, but unfortunately we're going to keep giving it to you because it's the best way we can treat this.
Oh, fuck.
It's like,
so did you go through like anaphylaxis and everything while they're giving this to you, or?
So not anaphylaxis. Basically what it did is it spiked the fever and it gave me tachycardia.
Ooh,
so I'm talking 8 hours of like 140 beats per second. Yeah.
Wow.
And when you're on chemo, your immune system is knocked out, right? Like I had the absolute neutrophil count of 0, like absolute 0. And so if you spike a fever when your neutrophil count is 0, you go to the hospital. because you don't have an immune system, and they want you to be around more sick people.
Logical.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
So I spent with my last bleomycin treatment, which is the drug I'm allergic to. I spent 4 days in the hospital because I spiked a fever.
Oh man.
So yeah, it sucks, man. But
Jeez.
I wrote some really good books out of it.
Yeah, but man, that's rough, dude. I am so glad you have been able to basically, for lack of a better term, recover.
Thank you. Yeah,
It.
It's been wild.
It's pretty epically
I will
badass.
say, I will say, there are 2 silver linings to this, though. The first is I cost my insurance company a lot of money. Like, it cost me a lot of money, it costs them more. And the second thing is I used it to get off jury duty just this week.
Yeah, I remember seeing you post something about jury duty, and I love that you were able to use it to get out of it, because it is the most boring shit sometimes.
Okay. So, a few weeks ago, a friend of mine, close friend of mine, passed away.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. I was walking, like I was trying to clear my head, like get to terms with this loss. I walked to the mailbox, which is down the road, and opened it up, and there was my jury summons. It was like, really, universe? Really?
You're just throwing shit at me now.
Yeah. So I went in Tuesday for jury duty, and the judge is like, is there anyone who thinks they can't sit on this trial? And I was like, yeah, me. She asked, okay, can you come up here and tell me why? I was like, hey, I'm a cancer patient on pain meds, and I can't take my pain meds here at the courthouse. She's like, okay, you can go. Excellent.
Oh, man. Oh, dude, that is just a crazy story, though, of like all of that. Wow.
I don't do half measures, Dave.
No, all in or nothing. I'm with you.
That's right. That's what you can expect from my games and books.
Speaking of your games, man, we are laying the perfect segues up here for everything. There are a couple projects that have work in that are coming up. One of them being, I just lost the name of it. Devoured Labyrinth, I believe.
Oh yeah, the Shadow Dark one.
Yes. And I saw that you wrote a couple dungeons for that. Mm-hmm. Correct?
Yes, I did.
What can you tell us about that project without getting yourself in trouble or giving away too much?
Sure. Just quick shout out. 2 games that have already been through Kickstarter that I have my hands in, that if you haven't checked out, you should, are Mork Dode by Tommy Susaner, which is awesome. It's death metal Morkborg. And then Chainsaw, which is the slasher Morkborg thing by
Myslinski, right?
Yes, thank you. I was like, I'm going to butcher Matt's name because I've never actually said it aloud. Myslinski, yeah.
I got you, man. I got you covered.
Thank you. And I wrote, I'm writing a killer for that book, and I think I'm going to be editing it as well. So
nice.
That's really cool. So yeah, the Shadow Dark thing. I wrote I'm good friends with Zach Goins. I got to meet him when he was with World of Game Design.
Yep.
He helped run my very first Morkborg project, which was Morkadeans. And then he helped me run Whispers of the Dead Saint, and we've worked together on a lot of stuff since then. We work really well together. He's a great. I literally cannot say enough nice things about Zach Goins. I think he is a pillar of the indie game community, and if there's a justice in the world, he will continue to be a pillar of the game community. Full stop. That said, he messaged me and he's like, "Hey, I'm working on this project. We have lots of different adventures that we're trying to do this full book on. Do you want to do a dungeon or two? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so I did one. So it's a book of dungeons that all tie together to a large kind of piecemeal campaign, right? You can essentially go through all of these dungeons either individually or as though it's a one-by-one campaign with a like grand finale and conclusion at the end. And so I wrote one. I had a ton of fun writing it because it was limited. It's 1 page to like 2-page dungeons, which means you're limited on word count.
Right.
And I got my start as a writer writing flash fiction, which is when you're trying to write like a short story in 50 to 100 words. It's a real challenge. It's really makes you think like, it makes you think about like efficiency of language, word choice, what can you get away with breaking in the laws of grammar wise. And so writing a full dungeon in 600 or fewer words is a really cool challenge.
Yeah.
And so I had a ton of fun because what you do then is tell a full-fledged story in 1-sentence room descriptions. And enemy action. Like, okay, the enemy does this thing, and that alludes to a story there, right? And so I wrote that, and then a little while later, Zach came back and was like, hey, do you want to write like one of the key pieces of this campaign? I'm not going to spoil anything about it, but what I will say is that there's some really cool, incredible storytelling going on within these dungeons. I really feel like you could read this book of dungeons from front to back and kind of glean the history and active story of this setting just from reading the dungeons. And I think that's really, really fucking cool.
Yeah, it is. I actually am going to write that down. 600-word dungeon, because I want to challenge myself to do something like that, because I have a tendency, like I've published one thing, never really written much, but I overthink. And I think limiting myself it stops you from overthinking.
I think there's so many people who there's a lot of people who want to be writers. They want to be game designers. But what they do is they sit down and they say, let me come up with the full history of this world I wanted this adventure to take place in, right? Yeah. There's a book called The Kobold's Guide to World Building.
Yep.
Read that first. In one essay, one of the guys says, and I talk about this all the time, he says, no one gives a shit about the history of the world except in how it pertains to their character.
That makes absolute sense in all honesty.
Yeah. So you live in Maine.
Yep.
I understand what Maine is. I've never been to Maine personally. I don't know shit about the history of Maine. I assume that there's a lobster somewhere involved. But conversely, I know a lot about the history of Spanish missions in Texas. How much do you know about the history of Spanish missions in Texas?
Not a fucking thing.
Yeah. Right. So, and that doesn't mean history doesn't exist, but it does mean that if we're going to run a game in Maine, there doesn't need to be anything built out for Texas. Also, if you're running a modern day game in Maine, how much do you need to know about the history of the Pilgrims that were in the area? or
Zero,
the indigenous
really,
people
yeah.
that were right.
Yep.
So I recently wrote a fantasy novel that I can't talk too much about because it's under a pen name. But I was extremely what I got praise on from my beta readers was the way I handled exposition, which I did solely through dialogue and only when it pertained to an actual thing that concerned the characters at that time. So you build the way you do world building, ideally, is through clues. Now, in one of the adventures I wrote for the Shadow Dark thing, I literally put essentially like a history textbook in a room, so I could just gudgeon the player in the face with something. But that's because there's a puzzle attached, and I can't you have to be a little bit obvious when you're doing puzzles. Otherwise, the player's going to spend 15 minutes trying to seduce a door, and I don't have time for that.
Players never do stuff like that.
I have run games at conventions to teach people how to play games or to show off games at non-game conventions. And every time, all the players just try to dick with me and make my life hard, and because they don't realize that's what a real game is going to be like.
Right. Oh, that is too funny. Another project that you probably can't say too much about.
I'm excited. I know you're about to ask it. It makes me really excited.
That you're writing fiction for, I believe, is the game with the coolest fucking title I have ever heard in my life, Raptor Ruckus. Like, all I can think of, bring the ruckus.
Yeah. Okay, so Raptor Ruckus, a Zach Goins joint again. I work with Zach and Brian Collins a lot.
Brian and Zach. Brian is great. I've had him on a couple times. I got to get Zach on because he seems like such a awesome dude. Like,
I literally, again, just cannot say enough nice things about Zach or Brian, frankly. Both of them have been ridiculously supportive of me. And Brian has an announcement at the beginning of June you're going to want to pay attention to.
excellent.
I won't say more than that. Raptor Ruckus. Boy. So I am writing fiction for it, and I am also writing part of the adventure book.
Oh, nice.
So I'm pretty involved in that. I'm a new member of that team, so I haven't been there from the very beginning. What I can say is that it is pulling a lot of DNA from a lot of different directions to make it a very full and cool game that is going to be I think something completely new in the Morkborg space. Zach and I sat down because I was like there was a lot of talking that had to happen before I could get started on my part, right?
Yep.
Because there's games like when I'm writing a novel for Morkborg. First of all, my Morkborg novels are essentially Castlevania fan fiction. Just don't tell Konami. Legally distinct Castlevania fan fiction set in Morkborg. But essentially, like, it's, I can do whatever I want in that space. Because they're my books, I'm publishing it. But Raptor Ruckus is a project by Snapback Games. It has a setting, it has a very specific vibe, and it has a very specific story arc for what they want to do. Now, it's going to grow beyond that, but my job as a writer is to ensure that their vision of this game setting, this game world, and how it builds is in line with what they want. So what I'll say is have a few things I'm working on for it, and I'm very excited because it's also a brand new challenge for me. Because it's not as over the top grim dark as Morkborg is.
Right.
It's not as punk rock as Vast Grim is. And it's definitely not as like supernatural horror that I'm best known for, or body horror, right? So it's a lot. I think it's going to be a lot more in line with like my Western as far as like pacing and mentality, but it's going to be a very different project than anything I've ever done before, and I'm really excited for it. If you're not familiar, and I'm just saying a bunch of words, Raptor Ruckus is a theme park of the Jurassic variety where things have gone bad. A legally distinct Jurassic themed park.
Well said.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, I saw that. I think I don't remember if it was your post of it or Zach's that I saw first. And I was like, oh shit, I am so in for this one, because the franchise that it's not related to is the original, at least, is one of my favorites of all time.
I remember going to the theater here in Austin and seeing it with my stepdad when it came out. And I also remember I had a Walkman with the CD in it that I took to Alaska, and I listened to the theme song like 5 times while flying over the glaciers.
Dude, that's sick.
Yeah. It was badass.
Badass, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not gonna say any more because I could talk more, but I feel like I'm gonna get in trouble.
Yeah, I don't want to get you in trouble, but it looks like I'm imagining a lot of blood and teeth.
It's going to be really cool. It's going to be extremely like I said, it's just going to be a completely new vibe in the Morkborg community. Kind of like Pirate Borg was, right? Or Vast Grim, nice. Or Ronin, right? They're all distinctly Morkborg, but at the same time, they've added new things, they've added new vibes, and they've added new facets to the community that weren't there before. Wasteland Degenerates too. I don't want to leave Scott out of this conversation because
Scott has done a killer job.
He really has. I was his very first podcast interview.
Oh, nice.
And it didn't record the audio. So it never aired. Yeah. But Scott's a great guy. Scott's a fantastic guy, and Wasteland Degenerates is super cool. So every time I see one of these things, I'm like, okay, I have to get back to my Morkborg hack that I want to work on. Because I see so many other people doing so many cool things.
And then you get roped in and you're like, oh, I've got to work on this too, because it's so bad.
And now, honestly, like I'm staring, I think I mentioned this before we recorded, but I'm staring at the Dying in the Dying Lands manuscript, like right now on my other screen, just like, why did I essentially say, hey, why don't I write a second book as part of this Kickstarter for no extra money? Cool. Good job, John, you dumbass.
Oh, I love it.
I'm a ding-dong.
So, really, the last thing I had was something that I think is really cool that you've got coming up on June 7th and 8th. Being part of a world record.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I just lost. I have it. I have part of it over here, but I've got it. My second monitor is where I tape all my talking points, so I'm not like looking down and
The
everywhere.
Lone Star Book Festival.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yes,
It's
because my
they're trying
monitor's
to
actually
do
shining through it, and I can't make out the words.
they're trying to do a world record attempt at the most readings at an event.
Dude, that is cool.
So yeah, I'll be doing that. I don't know what I'm going to read though, because like I'm normally at horror events or game
Right.
events where like that
Right.
know me as a horror guy, and this is just a random author thing. So I think I'm going to read the opening chapter of All I Want Is to Take Shrooms and Listen to the Color Nazi Screams.
Nice.
Because it does what it says on the tin, and I think that'll go over well.
That is so cool, dude. And
Yeah.
I think that's so rad that it's like a world record for like a creative thing, that it's not like who can cram the most hot dogs down their gullet in
Oh, we have to do
5
that
minutes.
too at the same time.
You gotta like Nathan's hot dogs chewing on them while you're like Nazis.
Yeah, no, it'll be a fun time. I don't know how well the event is going to do. It's my first time doing this particular one, but I hope I at least pay for the table. Always if I can just pay for the booth, I'll be happy.
Hopefully it works out for you. So, well, my friend, that was all I had. We covered
Awesome.
a lot of ground here tonight, and I have had an absolute friggin' blast shooting the breeze with you.
Can I share some news that hasn't?
Yeah,
made it to
absolutely.
Facebook?
Oh, by all means. I was about to ask if there was anything else.
There's two things. There's two things.
Right.
The first thing, I'm going to share some exciting news. I have a book coming out in July called Vicar of Fists.
Ooh.
I describe this book as The Warriors meets Tim Allen's Santa Claus.
Right.
Morkborg artist Simone Tometa has drawn the cover for me.
Oh, nice.
And it is very timely with what is happening in the Vatican City. It's a fun book. It's not horror. It's just action. It's bizarro.
Nice.
It's bizarro action. I'm really excited about it. It's a lot of fun. And if you've avoided my books because you aren't a big horror person, first of all, stop. I have lots of non-horror stuff you can read: fantasy, science fiction, urban fantasy. But this is a great place to jump in because it's a lot of fun. The other thing I just want to mention real quick is I started a Patreon.
I'll have to get the link from you so I can put that in the description.
But it's patreon.com/kaiju_poet. And I do a lot of Morkborg stuff on that, Morkborg fiction, and I am also doing a full-fledged campaign, a Morkborg campaign that I'm just going to kind of do in chunks, releasing like one dungeon, one section of the campaign area a month through the Patreon. Everyone who it's $1 for just like blog posts and news about what's going on, $5 to get all of the content I post on there. I want to say $10 or $15 to get like anything I release digitally that I have the rights to give out, you get for free. And $25, anything I put out physically, I will send you a signed copy on top of
I gotta get on that.
So yeah, I think it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I would say.
The goal is to make writing and game design my life and what I can do professionally. Patreon is a step in that direction. So if you are interested in what I'm doing and want to help with that, please join us. And if not, I appreciate your support anyway.
Awesome. Well, I will make sure to get that link added because I would love to be able to help you make that dream come true, because
Thank you.
it would be so badass yet again.
Absolutely.
And dude, I think this has been a badass talk. I have had so much fun, and thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, dude, we'll have to do it again. We already talked about that. I don't remember if we were live when we talked about that
No,
or
you said you've not been able to play a single real game of Mark Borg, and I
correct.
have offered to come on stream and run a game for you live.
Hell
One
yeah.
shot, one
I
on
am all
one, Mark
for it.
Borg.
I am all for it. So,
Let's do it.
yeah, we'll have to figure that out after we get off of here and figure out a day that works and all that jazz for both of us. And hopefully, monsoon season will be over in Maine. So I don't have to, because for folks that don't know, this, I think, our third and fortunately lucky attempt of getting you on here.
Yeah,
And it
it's
finally
been good.
happened because I got sick. And then I think the last time was about the time my dad passed away
Mhm.
that we tried to do it. And I was just like, I'm done with everything at that point for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, we made it happen. And I'm so stoked that we did it. I've had a badass time. And I actually want to talk to you after we get off the air more about my little idea for the badass system.
Oh, hell
Uh,
yeah.
but folks, thanks for tuning in. I hope you all enjoyed our chat here tonight. And if you did enjoy it, maybe give it a thumbs up. Think about subscribing. Be sure to check out the links to all of John's works below in the description and support this man, make his dream come true. And yeah, other than that, folks, thanks for tuning in and have a great night. Do, 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 do.